The Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3 leaked, air quotations, outline is here. This video will contain spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 8, so those of you who are lighthearted towards spoilers, go ahead and click out of the video right now. For everyone else, let's begin. Before we get started, please slap a like on this video. The like goal will be 37. Also, leave a comment and make sure you're subscribed with your notifications turned on, so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Now, just for pacing's sake, I'm going to try something a little bit different this episode. I'm going to read the leak all the way through and then give my major thoughts at the very end. So starting out, Episode 3 begins with Sansa and Bran discussing what to do about Jaime's army, who's currently camped outside Winterfell. Bran mentions how they are not the enemy and that the great threat moves ever closer as they speak. Bran informs them that the last hearth has fallen and that was the last defense before Winterfell. Just then, Tormund and Barrett come storming in. The scene cuts to Jon, Davos, and Tyrion about to depart for their trip to Winterfell. Jon tells Davos that he will marry Daenerys when given the chance. Tyrion is clearly disheartened by this, but mentions to Jon how an heir for the Iron Throne is of the utmost importance. He explains to Jon that if he does not have a successor to the throne, that Cersei will then have a stronger claim because she is pregnant and currently resides on the Iron Throne. Davos snaps back that Jon is king of the North and the Iron Throne is a southern ambition. Just then, Dany walks in and asks to speak to Jon alone. She begins the conversation with a kiss and tells Jon to take a seat. She informs Jon that ever since that night, she has felt a little funny and that she may in fact be pregnant if she knows her body well enough. Jon throws his arms around Dany and the two of them make love as the scene dips to black. Now it's noted that this is apparently the only time in the final season of Game of Thrones that these two will hook up. The next scene shows Tyrion and Davos alongside many troops, both Dothraki and Northern men, departing from Winterfell. After a long panned out shot of Jon and Daenerys' forces, it is made clear that they are headed straight to Winterfell. They make it by the very end of the episode, so there's apparently some kind of slight time difference between when we first saw Jon and Dany in episode 1 and then in episode 2. The next scene of the episode opens on Jaime in his tent discussing a plan with Bronn. The rest of the episode takes place up north with a few flashes down to King's Landing, but for the most part, the scenes in King's Landing will be left out until the very end because a lot of those are confirmed spoilers. The next scene picks up back at Winterfell and it's Jaime and Bronn. Jaime tells Bronn how he thinks Jon and Dany should be arriving soon. Slightly out of focus though, we see a shadowy figure moving outside of his tent in the background. The two of them don't notice this and are taken by surprise. It's Arya! She quickly disables Bronn's sword and grabs Jaime by the neck, holding him at knife point. This scene is very dramatic and Arya is unaware that Jaime is there as an ally because she has not yet been informed of this by Bran. The camera then pans around and it is revealed that Bronn has his hand on his trusty back dagger and is just waiting for the right moment to spring it on Arya. She tries to pull Jaime out of the tent and get out of his encampment, but Bronn exclaims that they're there to help and that she is. Arya cuts Bronn off by saying that Jaime and the Lannisters have destroyed her family, and if Bronn protects Jaime, he's an enemy of her family as well. Before we get a resolution to this, there is a loud booming sound and shrieks can be heard from the distance. Followed by those shrieks, we are shown an undead dragon. Arya tosses Jaime to the floor and disappears into the darkness. We then cut back to Jon and Dany briefly. We get a better idea of how far they are from Winterfell. Jon mentions to Dany that she'll love Winterfell and that it is in fact the oldest castle. He explains that he plans to marry her in the Godswood of Winterfell, and just then, Davos informs them that they are still about 1 day away from reaching their destination. Then we flashback to Winterfell. Sorry for my dyslexia there. After hearing the shriek, everyone throws it into hyperdrive. We get a montage of the Dothraki, the Knights of the Vale, and the Northern men all setting up for war. Jaime tries to parley with Sansa and Bran before the fighting starts, but these attempts are proven futile since the army of the dead has already arrived. Bronn tells Jaime that if they survive this, he wants 3 castles. He also mentions how they were lucky that the dead showed up when they did, or otherwise he would have been split ear to ear by that girl. The very final shots of episode 3 of Game of Thrones Season 8, according to this air quotations plot leak, are massive, sprawling battle shots. This battle will be insane and will rival the Battle of the Bastards. Over 4 different types of soldiers are all fighting the dead. The Night King is shown off in the distance of the battle on the back of Viserion, and it appears Viserion has grown slightly in size, and he also has thickened ice, almost forming a shield across his entire body. It appears the Night King has fashioned armor from the same material as his ice javelins / ice swords. There are only a few White Walkers with him. The rest are on the battlefield, adding new warriors to his ranks as they drop. This battle will not conclude in this episode, but in episode 4. We are led to believe that the living don't stand a chance. Much of the remaining Dothraki at Winterfell are killed. The Knights of the Vale fare a little better since they have armor, but ultimately, none fare well against the dead. The Lannisters seem to be doing the best since they have Jaime commanding them. It is made clear what happened with Arya as we are shown her sneaking into Winterfell with Nymeria and Ghost at her side. She then tells Sansa that she has an army of wolves to help protect their pack and asks where Bran is. Sansa tells them that he is in the Godswood doing his creepy thing. Then we skip back out to the battlefield, and this is the very last shot of episode 3. Apparently, it involves showing a massive pile of dead troops from all sides, including the undead, Knights of the Vale, the Dothraki, the Lannisters, all of them, with one solo White Walker standing by that pile, raising all of the undead. It's meant to appear that over half of the forces that were guarding Winterfell are destroyed. Now I'm going to share my thoughts, but before I do that, there was mention of King's Landing and how, most of that was spoilers, so I would save it to the end of the video. So apparently, according to this plot leak, the flashes that we get down in King's Landing involve one with Cersei being showed a demonstration of her new wildfire ballista. The jar of wildfire is launched into the air and an archer ignites it, causing a massive green explosion. The ballista is then used to fire a massive bolt with a chain attached. The chain bolt is shown piercing through a massive wall of stone, and then it's yanked back to the ballista. We are also shown a ship arriving in King's Landing as Melisandre departs from the ship and heads to the Red Keep. There are several red flags that were raised with this episode 3 plot leak. I don't know if we're going to get half of the stuff that's mentioned here, but some of the key points that I thoroughly enjoyed are Arya sneaking into Jaime's tent. That is totally on par with her character. It seems as though without her being informed of the information that, the Lannisters are there to help them, and without Jon having even made it back yet, it totally makes sense that Arya is going to go into defensive mode and go back to her old ways, which involve being a faceless man, sneaking around in the darkness and assassinating people. So I totally agree with that. That's probably one of my favorite plot points from this whole plot outline. Also, I kind of like the fact that Jon mentions to Daenerys that he wants to marry her in the Godswood. I feel like the person included that in this leak because it's straight fan fiction. I don't think that it's going to go down on the television series like that. If they both survive, sure, 100%. But if there's a chance that, or not a chance rather, since we have this situation that's going to occur in which Jon will find out his lineage and find out that Daenerys is technically his aunt, I don't know if we're going to get such a happy ending like that. Another red flag to me was the part towards the very end with Cersei and the flashbacks that we get to her of using this wildfire ballista. I do like the idea of her attaching a chain to it. We do know that it worked. It did pierce Drogon's shoulder. The problem was that he was so far away, it took a while to get to him since he had been downed at such a far distance. So with Cersei having this knowledge relayed to her, it only makes sense that Qyburn would throw a chain on that, because now it appears that they're going to be able to yank a dragon towards them after using this ballista. So I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen, although that would be genius if Cersei does try to do that. We do know that one of the only dragons that was killed during Aegon's conquest was taken down by a lucky bolt. So if Cersei increases her odds by adding a chain to that lucky bolt in order to yank the dragon towards her, well, that makes the most sense. I just see it happening. I mean, this isn't that type of story where Cersei's going to be although wait, yes it is, because this is Game of Thrones. One thing that I majorly had an issue with was the fact that somehow Beric and Tormund got to Winterfell. I guess it was slightly before the Night King did. It just doesn't make sense involving like the pacing of this. The plot leak was clearly written by someone who's a fan of the show, but I don't think they did full out research or even read their past previous leaks to sort of, I don't know. I mean, you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section. Those are some of my major, biggest draws about this. Okay, so as of yet, this is the third and final plot leak that I've been sent by this person. I've sent them several messages to try to get them to send me, basically the remaining 3 episodes of the season, but I have done to that unsuccessfully. One thing they did send with me on the initial episode 3 plot leak was several things that were supposed to happen at some point during the season. They didn't say when, but some of them seem a little bit ridiculous. The first one is Jon does end up marrying Daenerys, although it doesn't go down the way you think, as in, yeah, he doesn't marry her. The second thing is that Bran finally has a chance to tell Jon and sees that Jon is already in the process of wanting to become king, so there is no need to explain Jon's full lineage and cause him all of this heartbreak. So apparently, Bran has a chance to tell Jon, in I guess the way the show is making it lead up to believe that the only reason why Bran is finding out this information about Jon is because he needs to pass along to Jon to make Jon aware of the fact that he is destined to be king. But if Jon is already in the process of becoming king, I sort of see the rationale of why Bran wouldn't want to tell him, because it wouldn't cause nothing but turmoil. But one thing this person probably forgot is that Bran isn't human, and he could care less about someone's feelings. The next thing that's mentioned is that the Night King is defeated, and where he's defeated is north of the Wall. So that's a little bit kind of crazy. You guys let me know your thoughts on that down below. The fourth thing is that Cersei and Jaime both die. The fifth and final thing is that Sansa dies in the arms of Arya. Now, there are a few more things on this list that were sent to me, but I'm going to save those for a part 4. I think what I'll do in the part 4 is give my full out thoughts on the entire 3-episode outline and sort of go over some of the more plausible points. If you guys let me, or want me rather, to do that, let me know down in the comment section and I'll get that video cooking up for you. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video. The like goal will be 37. Also, make sure you're subscribed and that you turn your notifications on. It's very important that you become alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. And if you want to become a part of this movement, that's linked down below in the description and up here. My name's Mark, and I want to thank everyone so much for watching. This has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.